although you're down at the other end, I'm going to start ladies first, Rosie, and ask you a question. When we met, I told you that when I was about 20 when I read Vera Britton's book the first time, and it made a very profound impact on me, and you said it was the same for you. I wonder if you could tell us what impelled you to bring this to the big screen.
Yes, good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for coming along to join us for this. Yes, I think I was just always very moved by what is, by Vera Britton's, what is essentially a very loving and moving act of remembrance on her part in the book Testament of Youth for those she lost in World War I, which obviously feels very apt in this centenary now. And of course it was an elegy not just for the young men lost in the First World War, but all youth lost in all wars. And at the heart of it is this indomitable spirit, Vera Britton, who goes through this extraordinary rites of passage journey and all the youth and hopes and dreams that she has, and then goes through difficult times in extremis, and yet nothing makes her give up, and she lives through it and keeps running in the race and doesn't give up. And I think it was this quintessential rites of passage story about going through the worst the world has to offer and yet not giving up, which always really moved me.
James, you know, you're very experienced as a documentarian and in television drama, but this is your first feature film, and it's certainly a big one to tackle. I'm going to assume that a part of the appeal for you was that this wasn't the typical, if there is such a thing, war film, but that this is about the hearts and the minds and the emotions.
I think that's right. I mean, one of the things that, as a director, I look for are films, subjects that talk about the sort of universal human condition. And one of the great things that resonated for me as soon as I read the script was that this isn't just a period film. It's a film about ambition, love, grief, survival, courage, and those things speak to us now. And I think one of the things I hope the film achieves is that it resonates with an audience. It's like a touchstone on some of the great experiences that everyone will experience in their life. And it's incredibly important that drama and filmmaking sets up that as a scenario, as a kind of example for people to get through. And I think it moved me tremendously.
Thank you. Colin, I wondered before you got in front of the cameras, if you had all had a chance to hang out. Did you have rehearsal time? Did you do improvisations? Did you find some way to bond? Because you're so compelling as these, and natural as these devoted school buddies.
Well, what's great is we got the chance to do a bit of rehearsal with James before starting, which is invaluable and rare in the film industry at the minute. I think we're lucky as well that James cast it very well, because I think we naturally got on, and I think doing our own individual research with the letters that these people wrote themselves between each other, and understanding exactly what the bond was between them in such a tumultuous time was, I think, was important. Coming in with those connections, coming in with those feelings, and coming in very much with a duty and a dedication to these people. I think that was paramount, and I think that reflected really then when we got on set together, and we felt it. You know, I think it did feel like a very special moments.
Yeah, it shows. Thank you. Kit, having originated the role of Albert in War Horse at the beginning of your career, I assume you were pretty well steeped in the World War I experience, but I wondered what had particularly appealed to you in this one and in playing Roland, what kind of a different experience it was.
Yeah, I think I've always been very interested by this war, and I think a lot of young people are actually. As I was growing up, I was fascinated and wanted to study the war poets, and actually read this book at school. And so with War Horse, it was a, you know, it was my first job. I wanted to do it anyway, and it was a great role. But it was an extra special piece because it was about a young man going through the First World War. And then when this came up and I read the script, it was such a beautiful kind of adaptation of the book that I'd grown up with. and the character that I knew quite well, that I found it a real no-brainer to want to play someone who actually existed and that I had so much research material for in letters and in the book, that it seemed like, you know, it seemed like an honor to be able to be given a real person from history, which I'd not played before.
Thank you. Taron, was there a point for you where you had to let thinking about the real Edward go and just go with the script and go with the, did you take it all in to begin with and let it go, or were you ever mindful of the real boy and how young he was? And
well, I think in terms of your desire to do justice to the story, you never really let go of the sense that it was a real person. But, you know, these were people who were around 100 years ago. So aside from these letters and photos, there's no, you can't watch footage and mimic their mannerisms. And I think as well, personally, I like performances that I'd rather see an interpretation of a character than an impression, you know, because I think it normally is a little bit more heartfelt. But sort of echoing what these guys have said, really, I think you're always, you never forget that you're playing a real person, especially when they went through something so horrific, and I hope we've done justice to their memory.